So only months ago, the expansion Legion was released for World of Warcraft. And I'm sitting here with some of the developers behind that. And what do you guys think? How do you guys think it has been greeted? I mean, how's it doing?
We're just excited because we're like we pour so much into this thing, and it's obviously our baby, but we play it too. And from a player perspective, we have our likes and dislikes from things we've done in the past. And I mean, personally speaking, like I think I'm more into Legion than I have been in any expansion since Wrath of the Lich King. And it feels like our community has really been very positive about it as well. So far so good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been building for us because we released the pre-patch where we really wanted to plan a lot of cool activities with demon invasions, let people kind of catch up with their gear if they wanted to, but, show off some of our technology that we could have literally hundreds of people in one spot, fighting together. And then we rolled right from that into the early release of the Demon Hunter, and I rolled a Demon Hunter for this expansion, so it was pretty awesome to be able to, jump in and start playing that. And so it literally built for us, but there's always that fear for us on the day that we're going to release the game because so many people come back at once. It's like this phenomenon, this flood, hitting our servers, and we weren't sure whether the technology could handle it or not, and it did. I mean, we actually had our queues, we had small queues happening, and then we just raised the realm caps and were able to let pretty much everybody in. I don't think many people actually experience a very long time to get into the game, so it was a great launch. I think people were happy with not only stability, but the fantastic content, so we're pretty happy.
That's great to hear. So even though it has gotten off to a really great start, how are you guys thinking of improving the game here post-launch?
Well, we're actually this is like an awesome time to be sitting here talking to you about Legion, right? Because we've launched the game where, everybody's well into their order hall business. People are enjoying their artifacts. Their artifacts. I'm too stuck in artcraft mode. And we're right like at this precipice because we've been building up against this force that's invading us, and now the question is left to be answered, like what are we going to do? Because you've been working so long on building up your defenses and making sure that you can combat the Legion, like now is the time that we get to answer that question. So maybe John can go a little bit about our upcoming patches and talk about what's coming up with those.
Sure, be happy to. So we listened to our fans last time. They said, hey, we like Warlords, but come on, don't let us wait a year for content updates. So we hear you loud and clear. We have plans for lots of updates for Legion, a big story to tell. But along with that, we already put out the 7.1 patch, Return to Karazhan, so pretty beefy patch in and of itself. We're also in between some of our major patches. We're going to do what we call mini updates. So the next one, 7.1.5, we just talked about, is going to have Brawlers Guild, so Return of Brawlers Guild, update to one of our favorite arenas. We're also going to introduce time walking for Mists of Pandaria dungeons. So if you're a dungeon fan like me, there's some cool stuff in that. And that's what we consider a mini update. 7.2, which we haven't set the date on, but is not too far away, is actually going to be one of the biggest patches we've ever done. And that's going to be the invasion of the Broken Shore. Certainly it's a whole new zone. We're going to take on the Legion firsthand. Got an incredible raid in there with Tomb of Sargeras. On top of that, we've got a dungeon, so got to have more dungeons. Plus, we upgrade all the gear in the existing dungeons. So with our mythic dungeons and the keystones, you're going to be able to continue to get great gear whether you raid or not. You can still go into dungeons, do cool things. But I think one of the coolest things, and I'll let you talk about it because it's kind of a work of love on your part, with the class mounts.
Yeah, so I think one of the major themes for Legion has been really trying to hone in on what that class fantasy is, and we do that all the time, right? It's always about trying to make sure that our players feel like their classes are given the appropriate attention and that we're always kind of building up the lore and the story behind that. So with artifacts, that gave us the ability to really focus in on like what are the weapon sets that really exemplify what it means to be a rogue or a mage or any one class that you're playing. So what's really awesome coming up now is that we're actually making these class mounts that are very specifically designed in that exact same way to represent the class from a mount perspective, with sort of, if you envision like if I'm a rogue, what is like the ultimate mount that I would be riding around on? That was what we've done. And now it's at this perfect time where we're going to introduce them where obviously you're not flying yet, but they will be leading up to a point where you're able to fly around and check out Legion from the sky. So
That seems like a pretty great deal to be introducing the ability to fly. I mean, how do you think that is going to affect the game?
Well, obviously, I mean, I think we'd balance that, right? But initially what it is that, and the reason that we don't allow people to do it from the beginning is that we can kind of control that gameplay experience a little bit more when it really matters. Like when the leveling experience matters, as we introduce the idea of scaling and being able to go to any one zone at any one time and play at your level and experience the gameplay as it was meant to be played, or as it was meant to be played. Once that's accomplished and now you're focused on building up your all the things that you need to do in order to take on the Legion on this higher level, I feel like it kind of takes a little bit of that pressure away from experiencing that kind of leveling experience. So you're allowed to then go and be able to be more mobile and kind of check out some of the stuff that you weren't able to do when you were just running out on the ground, clean a few things up, and then obviously we always tend to introduce a little bit of gameplay from that perspective that allows flying to be like a core element in your experience. Do you have any?
Yeah, I think this is definitely one of the more vertical expansions that we've done with, the High Mountain, I think, is the tallest mountain we've ever done. And so if you've fallen off the cliffs in this expansion, you know what I'm talking about. Of course, I'm a demon hunter, so I don't experience that ever. I just get to glide. But for the rest of you, but flying was taken into account from the very beginning when we designed this expansion. So we knew we were going to be going there. But we did, as Chris said, we wanted you to experience the story, see the beautiful art, understand what each one of these zones is about, because they're very, I think this is one of the best jobs we've done in giving each zone a unique character and making everything consistent and cohesive within that, whether you're talking about, the Vrykul from Stormheim or the really cool druidic land of Val'Sharah. I think you want to be on the ground and see that. But hey, you want to fly too, and for folks that like to play alts, like I do, it's a great way to kind of catch up. And now that Chris has given us these awesome class mounts, I'm definitely going to want to play a couple of my alts.
So you're also saying that you're counting on releasing even more content more frequently. Do you have any idea of how often we can expect to see something new in the game?
Well, I mean, we are Blizzard, so we want to make sure we release when it's ready. The mini updates are a way for us to continue to give you updates in between the major ones, so we have a little bit more flexibility and control over that. We don't generally put out, like we're not going to put out a whole zone inside of one of these mini updates. And the intent of those is to be able to kind of fill the gaps. Obviously, 7.2 is a really big patch for us, so we want to make sure we had a mini update in between there. We hinted about 7.3. We didn't say anything more than this is going to be us taking the battle to the Legion. So that's another big patch that we're going to do, and we'll have a mini update in between 7.2 and 7.3.
So besides the mounts, what is one of your favorite things coming to the game, and what are you looking forward to seeing players embrace?
So, I mean, I think like I mentioned before, this is a really awesome time building into what we're going to experience moving forward. And it's hard to talk about because there's all this stuff that like John just kind of hinted at that's coming up and sort of like wrapping up the story that we've been experiencing. So without getting into like exact detail, it's just that we're doing things from an environmental perspective in the future that we've never really experienced before or experimented with from an artistic angle that are going to kind of like introduce a new visual sort of like style, not style, but just like a way that we're working with the background and parallaxing and things that impact your gameplay experience, but not just from like a pure traditional methodology that we've used in previous expansions.
We talked about a few things. I'll just throw a few more out. I think PvP brawls are going to be a blast because it's just a crazy mashup. We're going back to some familiar areas, but you're also seeing them in a different form. So we're going to take some existing battlegrounds, put some snow behind them so you can't really see what's off in the distance. That'll create a lot of tension that may not have been there before. I really love the World Quest system, so we're going to be introducing more World Quests, so you have a lot of variety. I think people really enjoyed the demon invasions. As a matter of fact, I've had some people that said, I didn't come back until, Legion went live and I missed the whole demon invasion thing. Are you guys ever going to bring that back? And yes, we are. So it's going to be fun to have demon invasions popping up again and everybody now experiencing those.
You also mentioned a dungeon that's coming up. Can you tell us something about that?
You talked about the cathedral in 7.2. We did show some video on that. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. It obviously is on the top of the Tomb of Sargeras. Some pretty crazy bosses in there. I think the rest of that, just check out the video. I don't want to make any spoilers, but it's going to be one of the best dungeons that we've done.
Well, I think I'm all out of questions, so I just want to say thank you so much for your time.